I do not look forward to reviewing this. Pompeii isn't terrible, but it is really, really mediocre, and I have very little to say about it. So I'll just jump right into the review. The special effects are all right. I kept feeling if Roland Emmerich was doing this movie, he'd be doing these scenes of mass destruction so much better. There are times when I was watching Pompeii that I felt like I was watching characters interact with a green screen or CGI effects. Or at one point, I could have sworn they even used a miniature of the city, and it looked really, really bad when the water hit it. That looked a little fake. But for the rest of the film, I'd say the special effects were fine. And when it came actually to the earlier stuff, I even thought they were pretty good. But otherwise, nothing about the action really jumped at me. The fight scenes are more grounded in reality than most of Paul W.S. Anderson's films. They aren't as stylized as what you'd get in the Resident Evil movies, but it's probably for the better because that would have been too out of place. But for what we get, it's pretty solid sword and sandal action sequences. This isn't an action-packed movie, but there are enough action scenes. The problem with this movie is that it's just very conventional on paper. You have a cliched romance where it seems like they aren't really interested in each other. They're just interested in their different lifestyles. You have your typical gladiator hero who just seems to be attracted to her for physical reasons because she looks hot. And I never really bought the relationship as being any deeper than that. And on his end, she likes his more free lifestyle apparently, because being a slave automatically means free. It's just a typical princess wanting more character, and standard stuff. The actors who play these characters, they aren't horrible, but at the same time, they never really make these characters any more interesting. If you had a more charismatic actor playing this role, so for example, The Rock, if The Rock was the main character, he would have been fun enough to make up for the relatively standard characterization. We got a boring but competent actor playing a boring character. That's just kind of uninteresting to me. I will say, on the more positive side, Kiefer Sutherland is a lot of fun as the villain. He's very over-the-top and hammy, not quite John Travolta, Battlefield Earth levels of cheese, but it's definitely up there. But even if his acting is technically bad, at least it was entertainingly bad. And for a film this average, I want something like that, which is my anchor, and Kiefer Sutherland is in a way the only anchor I had to this movie. I also like the guy who plays Mr. Echo. I don't know his real name, but I know him as Mr. Echo from Lost. He does really good too. But it seems always like in these kinds of movies, the psychic black dude who these characters always seem to befriend, they're always more interesting than the main characters themselves. In fact, I would have liked to have seen Mr. Echo play the main character role. He could have carried this film so much better than the main guy actually did. But I really don't know what else I could add to that. I thought it was interesting how the main character didn't really seem to interact with the story very much. Like, the primary plot involves Kiefer Sutherland trying to get control over Pompeii. He makes a deal with the love interest's father, and then ultimately he's trying to woo her, and ultimately this leads to him blackmailing them. That was an actual story, whereas the main character is just, they occasionally cut to him and he has a fight scene. But he doesn't really tie into the primary plot very well. And which, if they cut that character out and just focused on Kiefer Sutherland trying to get this girl and make her the main character, I think I would have liked this movie more. But then it moves relatively well, and like I said, nothing really jumps out as good, but nothing really stands out as awful either. But at the same time, I never really enjoyed myself very much. It's the type of movie, if you see it on TV, go ahead and watch it. If you have a Netflix account or something like that, where you might be paying money to have the account, but you're not really paying any money specifically for this movie, then you might as well add it to your Netflix list, but don't bump it up to the top. And more importantly, I would say this movie is not worth paying money to see in theaters, and it's not worth paying money as a full-on rental. But that's mediocre for you, and nobody knows mediocrity like Paul W.S. Anderson. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I I did not do a written review of this, but I did do written reviews of Attack of the Vegan Zombies, which is about vegan zombies. Think about that. Ghosts of Mars, a John Carpenter movie that sucks. And The Prowler, a 1980s slasher flick. And also be sure to check out my Amazon listing. I'm going to be adding more items to sell on my website, including a PS2. So please check that out if you haven't. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later.